A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ayat number 49, Surah Al-Anfal. إذ يقول المنافقون والذين في قلوبهم مرض غر هؤلاء دينهم ومن يتوكل على الله فإن الله عزيز حكيم. At that time, the hypocrites and all those who had malice in their hearts were saying, their religion has deceived them. But you should know that anyone who puts his trust in Allah will find Allah mighty and wise. Here we see that at this point Allah wants to point out that some people who did not have goodness in them, and secondly the hypocrites, they thought that the Muslims have been deceived by their own religion. It so happened that when Abu Jahl was leaving to come in this battle, he said, by Allah, after this day they will never worship Allah. Some people, they say, that wanted to convert to Islam. From the disbelievers, there were some people who wanted to revert to Islam. But what happened was that when they came to this combat point, when they saw that the Muslims were very few in number, they were barely 313, this made them realize that no, we should not revert to Islam. Why? Because these Muslims are so few in number. How do they think they can go and fight a massive army of the Quraysh? So this is what Allah refers here, that they started saying that their religion has deceived them. For us also, at such moments when you see life and death, anybody can stand up and comment and say, why would you go in a situation where you knew that you could have died? Why didn't you stay back? Now logically these kinds of explanations may make sense, but look how Allah is turning this conversation to, and He says, but you should know that anyone who puts his trust in Allah, putting your trust in Allah would mean that the Sahabas left their homes for the sake of Allah. There was no second thing about it, or there was no second intention about it. They left wholly and solely for the sake of Allah, to please Him, and they followed the Rasul. When they put their trust in Allah, Allah can never leave them just like that, at the mercy of the mushrikeen. And here Allah intended to prove, this is why Battle of Badr is also called the Furqan, because the truth was differentiated from the batil. So here Allah says, if that is going to be the case where you put your trust in Allah, then you will find Allah mighty and wise. If you could only see the angels when they were taking away the souls of the unbelievers, they were smiting their faces and their backs, saying, taste the torment of the burning fire. This is the punishment for what your hands have sent forth, for Allah is never unjust to His servants. This ayat also refers to as per the time of death, when the angels of death come to take the soul. A lot of people don't believe in these things, and they say that, well, no one came back to tell us what will happen at the time of death and after. And a lot of people even deny what is going to happen in Qabr. They think that there will be no questions and there is no azab in Qabr, and wallahu alam, these are just stories. We don't know how far these are true. But we as Muslims believe in the Quran. And these are the words that Allah says, if you were able to see when they were taking out their souls, that they were smiting their faces, they were beating them up by their faces and from their backs. Why were they doing this? Is because the soul at the time of death, if it is a bad soul, then it doesn't want to leave the body. So it runs all over the body. And it is also said that the nerves and the veins are then attached to the soul. So when it is taken out, it is a very painful death. May Allah save everyone from that. So, and they kept on telling them that this is the punishment that is waiting for you. So now face it. And lastly, it says here that Allah is never unjust to His servants. For a lot of us, even when it comes to hellfire, we do comment things like, we say that how can Allah put His own beings, His own creation, His own humans into hellfire? Allah says here that Allah is never unjust to His servants. That means Allah's rahmat encompasses everything. But what do you do when the man has decided to enter hell himself? When he has decided himself, and because he decided that he's not going to change his amal and he's not going to listen to the Quran and the teachings of the Rasul, then how can one say anything about Allah's decision? So they say that according to Abu Zar radiallahu anhu, he says, Nabi Sallallahu said, Allah the Exalted said, that means this can be referred to as Hadith Qudsi, when Allah is saying something and Nabi Sallallahu is repeating those words. O my servants, I have prohibited injustice for myself and made it to you between each other. Therefore, do not commit injustice against each other. O my servants, it is your deeds that I am keeping count of. So whoever found something good, let him praise Allah for it. Whoever found other than that has only himself to blame. And this comes in Muslim. That means that we have been given the choices, so the decision that we make will determine our destiny. So this was the same that happened to the people of Fir'aun and to those that had gone before them. They also rejected the revelations of Allah, and Allah seized them for their sins. So you see, the words of Allah don't change. Surely Allah is mighty and severe in punishment. That is because Allah has never changed the blessings which He has bestowed on a people until they themselves change the condition of their souls. That is, they have changed themselves within themselves, and then they don't want to come to the good. Verily Allah hears all and He knows all. This same principle was applied to the people of Fir'aun and those who have gone before them. They rejected the revelations of their Rabb, so we destroyed them for their sins. And we drowned the people of Fir'aun. They were all wrongdoers. The worst of animals in the sight of Allah are those who reject the truth and do not become believers. Now from here onwards, we will see that some of the ayats are going to talk about the treaties that Muslims made with other tribes. الذين أحدت منهم ثم ينقضون عهدهم في كل مرة وهم لا يتقون. Those who make treaties with you and time after time violate their treaties and have no fear of Allah. If you encounter them in combat, make them a fearsome example for others who would follow them, so that they all may learn a lesson. For those, this is referring for those who want to not follow the treaties. If you fear treachery from any of your allies, you may fairly retaliate by breaking off the treaty with them. And how will you break off this treaty? By properly announcing that this treaty has become null and void when you see that they are becoming treacherous. Because we see that Muawiyah radiallahu anhu was leading an army in the Roman lands, and they say that this was at a time a bilateral treaty, peace treaty was valid. And they say that he wanted to come closer to the forces so that when the peace treaty ended, he could invade. They say an old man riding on his animal said, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, be honest and stay away from betrayal. Aap said, whoever has a treaty of peace with a people, then he should not untie any part of it or tie it harder until the treaty reaches its appointed term, or he should declare the treaty null and void, that they are both on equal terms. And later they said that this old man who was riding was referred to as Amr bin Anbasa. This man later was known as Amr bin Anbasa radiallahu anhu. And when Muawiyah, he got to hear this statement of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, so then Hazrat Muawiyah, he retreated from his action. Let not the unbeliever think that they have won the game. Surely they can never frustrate the believers. Master against them all the military strength and cavalry that you can afford. That is, so that you may strike terror into the hearts of the enemy of Allah and of your and others besides them who are unknown to you but known to Allah. For this I am going to read out a hadith to you. And this is Imam Malik. He records this, that Hazrat Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu said, Aap said, horses are kept for one of three purposes. For some people they are a source of reward, for some others they are a means of shelter, and for some others they are a source of sin. The one for whom they are a source of reward is he who keeps a horse for Allah's cause, trying it with a long tether on a meadow or in a garden. The result is that whatever it eats from the area of the meadow or the garden where it is tied will be counted as good deeds of his benefit, for his benefit. And if it should break its rope and jump over one or two hillocks, then all its dung and its footmarks will be written as good deeds for him. If it passes by a river and drinks water from it, even though he had no intention of watering it, then he will get the reward for its drinking. Therefore, this type of horse is a source of good deeds for him. As for the man who tied his horse maintaining self-sufficiency and abstinence from begging, all the while not forgetting Allah's right concerning the neck and back of his horse, then it is a means of shelter for him. And a man who tied a horse for the sake of pride, pretense, and showing enmity for Muslims, then this type of horse is a source of sins. So we see that Allah encourages the Muslims that when you have a military strength, then you should always keep it in such a way that you are able to show your strength, and then you can fight out with it, and in such a way that you can strike terror against your enemies. Remember that whatever you will spend in the cause of Allah shall be paid back to you in full, and you shall not be treated unjustly. If the enemy is inclined towards peace, do make peace with them. We see Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, there will be disputes after me, so if you have a way to end them in peace, then do so. That means the best way to avoid arguments is that to make a peace therein. And put your trust in Allah. He is the one who hears all, knows all. Should they intend to deceive you, verily Allah is all sufficient for you. He is the one who has strengthened you and the believers with His help, through putting affection in their hearts. If you had spent all that is in the earth, you could not have so united their hearts. This is referring to the tribes of Aus and Khazraj in Medina, as they were fighting for over 120 years. With the coming of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and finally the coming of Islam, Nabi ﷺ united these two tribes, and they became very good tribes later on, and then there were no such enmities and hatred amongst them. But Allah says, you could not have done it by yourself. This is Allah who put this love within these two tribes. In the Masnoon du'as also you can find Allahumma alif baina qulubina wa asli zata bainina wahdina subulas salam. This is a Masnoon du'a. Whenever we feel that there are strained relations, then one can also recite this du'a. Allah has united them. He is mighty wise. O Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Allah is all sufficient for you and for the believers who follow you. O Prophet, rouse the believers to prepare for combat. If there are 20 steadfast amongst you, they shall be able to fight out 200. If they are 100, they shall overcome 1,000 of the unbelievers. For they are a people who lack understanding. For now Allah is lightening your burden, because He knows that there are still some weak individuals among you. So if there are 100 steadfast among you, they shall vanquish 200. So now this became only to double. And if there be 1,000, they will overcome 2,000 with the leave of Allah. For Allah is with those who are steadfast. It is not fit for a prophet that he should take prisoners until he has thoroughly subdued the land. Do you, O followers of Muhammad ﷺ, desire the temporary goods of this world, while Allah desires for you the hereafter? Allah is mighty wise. What does this refer to? By the end of Battle of Badr, there were captives that were taken from the mushrikeen, and they came in the captivity of the Muslims. And now it had to be decided what to do with these captives. So there were difference of opinions from the Sahaba. Some said that they should be killed. Then some said no, they should be set free and we can take ransom in return. So in this case we see that finally Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam fixed an amount, and then ransom was taken and some of the captives were freed. And it was also suggested that we can exchange. If there were our captives, then they could have also gone in exchange. So Allah says that in the first place, it's not right for you to take prisoners, and until they have been thoroughly subdued. And Nabi Sallallahu followers are being said that would you then go for the worldly things, whereas Allah has kept the best for you? Had there not been a previous sanction from Allah to take ransom, because then Muslims were allowed to take these war booties, you should have been sternly punished for what you have taken. So now we see that finally the Muslims were then allowed to use this war booty. We see that according to Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu, he said, I have been given 5 things which were not given to any prophet before me. They are: Allah made me victorious by awe, that is by his frightening my enemies for a distance of 1 month's journey. The earth has been made a place for praying and a purifier for me. The booty has been made lawful for me, yet it was not lawful for anyone else before me. I have been given the right of intercession, that is on the day of resurrection. Every prophet used to be sent to his people only, but I have been sent to all mankind. And we see that this has been supported in both Bukhari and Muslim. لولا كتاب من الله سبق لمسكم فيما أخذتم عذاب عظيم. Had there not been a previous sanction from Allah to take ransom, you should have been sternly punished for what you have taken. فَكُلُوا مِمَّا غَنِمْتُمْ حَلَالًا طَيِّبًا. Very well, enjoy the booty which you have taken, for it is lawful and pure. But in the future, fear Allah. Allah is forgiving, merciful. O Prophet, tell the captives in your custody, if Allah finds goodness in your hearts, He will give you even better than what has been taken from you. This also refers to Hazrat Abbas radiallahu anhu, and he commented that after I became Muslim, Allah gave me 20 servants in place of the 20 uqiyah I lost, and I hope for Allah's forgiveness. So Allah mentions the same thing here, that He will give you even better than what has been taken from you, as well as forgive you. Allah is forgiving, merciful. But if they have treacherous designs against you, O Prophet, they have already shown treason against Allah. That is why He made them your captives. Allah is knowledgeable, wise. Those who believe, that is, those who embraced Islam, migrated and made jihad, that is, they exerted to the utmost struggle with their wealths and their persons in the cause of Allah, as well as those who gave them asylum meaning referring to the Ansars, and help, are indeed the protecting friends of one another. As to those who believe, that is, they embraced Islam but did not migrate to Dar es Salaam, that is the Medina, you are under no obligation to protect them until they migrate, meaning you're not under any obligation to give them out of the 1/5 of the war booty for those who have not migrated. Yet it is your obligation to help them in the matters of faith if they ask for your help, that is against the enemy, except against a people with whom you have a treaty. Allah is observant of all your actions. The unbelievers are protectors of one another. If you fail to do likewise, there will be disorder in the land and great corruption. Those who believe, that is, those who embraced Islam, migrated and made jihad in the cause of Allah, and those who gave them asylum and help, they are the true believers. Nabi Sallallahu said, no followers of two religions inherit from each other. Therefore, neither a Muslim inherits from a disbeliever, nor a disbeliever from a Muslim. If you do not do so, offer your loyalties to believers and shun idolaters. Fitna will overcome the people, for believers will mix with the disbelievers. So this is something which has been very made clear here, that this is like-minded. So the Ansars protected and supported the Muhajirin, and of course those who will be against the Muslims, then they are going to support one another also. They shall have forgiveness and honorable provisions. Those who believe, that is, embraced Islam, afterwards migrated and joined you in jihad, they too are your brothers, although according to the book of Allah, the blood relatives have greater rights on one another. So this refers to that everyone is going to keep a company in dunya. And similarly, everyone is going to rise with the company they have been keeping in dunya. So it is said that one will be in the company of those whom he loves. He who loves a people is one of them. And similarly, we see that Allah has allotted every right to the one who deserves it. So there may be no will for an heir. Now in this regard, we can see that relatives, of course, there was a time when the Muhajirs and the Ansars were so closely related that it could be that they could have inherited from one another. Why? Because they became brothers of Islam. But later on it was said that no, your relatives have more right on inheritance. And this is when we see that the laws of inheritance were revealed in Surah An-Nisa. Now we move on to the next surah, which is Surah At-Tawbah. Now for Surah At-Tawbah, this was revealed after Fateh Makkah, and that was in the 8th Hijri. And in Surah At-Tawbah we will see that when Islam was finally in the sense coming to an end as per its completion, this is like if you're talking about 8th Hijri, so we see that by this time Makkah was conquered. So now there was a definite supremacy of the Muslims which was established in the entire Arab world at that time. And of course the conquest by the Sahabas later also, that added to this entire regime of the Muslim state. And of course there was not something like we have today in the countries, that you have laws and you have rules which are followed and everybody has to abide by them. But at that time the system of tribes was there. So every tribe used to go into peace treaties with one another. So similarly, when Islam was established, then a lot of tribes came to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and they went into peace treaties with Nabi ﷺ. If you remember Sulh Hudaybiyah, that was also a peace treaty. And like we see that Surah Tawbah is one of the last surahs that was revealed. And in this we will see later on in this surah, we will see that some of the tribes later on they broke their treaties, and with some Prophet Muhammad ﷺ broke the treaty. And inshallah when we return after a short break, we will start the surah.